Hello, my name is Mark Reid. I am a Professor of Socio-Technical Innovation in Newcastle University in the UK, and I am Research Lead for the IUCN's UK Peatland programme. The UK has a history of devastating peatland wildfires that have caused significant damage to internationally important habitats, climate and water supplies. UK wildfires are also among the best studied in the world, providing us with unique data about the recovery of these systems. This has driven the development of new restoration methods and innovative ways of funding restoration on the scales needed. Following a hotter and drier than usual summer, a major wildfire broke out on Peat Moorland on the 24th of June 2018, 15 miles from Manchester city centre. Known in the press as the Saddleworth Moor Fire, this incident took fire and rescue services over 3 weeks to fully extinguish. At one point, over 100 soldiers were drafted in to help fight the fire. The full environmental impact is still being assessed, but based on the burn extent, field surveys and ground truthing from UK researchers in the weeks immediately after the burn, initial estimates of the carbon losses from Saddleworth are in the region of 273,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide, equivalent to 1.2 million return flights from London to Poland. Crises have a habit of bringing people together. The Saddleworth fire brought together 7 universities, the Moors of the Future Partnership, a water company, and multiple landowners to study the cause and effects of the fire. But the crisis affecting UK peatlands is far greater and more insidious than this single fire. We've lost 94% of our lowland raised bogs, mainly due to extraction. And over 80% of our remaining peatlands are damaged in various ways, including by historic wildfires. In response to this crisis, as research lead for the IUCN's UK Peatland programme, I have been privileged to watch members of the research community, along with policymakers and practitioners, come together around our 2040 vision and target and create booklets and share their experience and expertise through the meetings and events that we've hosted. But the challenge is enormous. We've set a target of getting 2 million hectares of UK peat bogs under restoration or in good condition by 2040. That's equivalent to 3.2 million football pitches. If you laid those football pitches end to end, they would stretch around the world 8 times. There's not enough public funding, even in a relatively well-off country like the UK, to even approach a challenge of this size. That's why we developed the Peatland Code, to access private funding for restoration alongside public funding. The potential for privately funded place-based schemes like the Peatland Code to deliver benefits alongside publicly funded schemes has been recognised in the UK government's 25-year environment plan. And I believe that these sorts of schemes are likely to play a more prominent role in delivering benefits for society after Brexit. Following this place-based approach, quoting from one of my papers, multiple ecosystem services are delivered in the same landscape in a voluntary transaction between buyers and sellers of services as part of a scheme that is developed and governed by partnerships of relevant stakeholders who hold shared values for the landscape. And so, as such, there is no set price per tonne of carbon for a Peatland Code project. It varies depending on the costs of restoration, which of course vary widely, and the attractiveness of the location and the co-benefits of a project to potential buyers. To date, there are 4 projects validated or in the process of validation, and a further 17 projects in the pipeline. Emission reductions from these projects vary from 2 to 19.3 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent per hectare per year, depending on the site. The first fully validated project is restoring 77 hectares of peatland affected by drainage and bare peat erosion, and is expected to reduce emissions by at least 6,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent over the 45-year project period. Schemes like this don't just work in countries like the UK or Germany. The Moor Futures scheme preceded and in part inspired our Peatland Code. They have the potential to raise restoration finance in the poorest countries of the world in ways that can complement the Kyoto mechanisms. Projects financed under the Peatland Code can also be accredited under voluntary carbon market standards and the International Greenhouse Gas Accounting Standard ISO 14065 and can contribute towards national emission reduction targets. But restoration is often not financially viable under the voluntary or compliance markets due to the low price of carbon. The creation of regional carbon markets like the Peatland Code and Moor Futures enables prices to be set on the basis of restoration costs and multiple benefits, as long as there are buyers. And as privately funded schemes, they can support land managers without falling foul of World Trade Organization rules limiting government support for agriculture. Now, Peatland Code projects are helping us fulfil the UK's obligation under IUCN Resolution 43, which is on securing the future of global peatlands, as you can see on the screen now. This was adopted at the IUCN World Congress in 2016, and the IUCN UK Peatland programme, in collaboration with Newcastle University, is currently monitoring the implementation of this motion internationally. We're going to be reporting on this work early next year, providing the first comprehensive international policy assessment of efforts to introduce policies and strategies to protect, restore and sustainably manage the world's peatlands. Now, we've been talking about mechanisms to get private investments in peatland restoration. I'll show you what this looks like. Here's some preliminary results, anonymised, as you might expect. So we've been talking about mechanisms like this for some time, and I think for a lot of us the progress might feel quite slow, but I believe we are now on the cusp of something really big. In one of my latest projects, I'm working with a place-based approach to pay for ecosystem services, which is called Landscape Enterprise Networks. And the idea here is that we're trying to create triple wins for business, farmers, and the environment. Working with business in the community and Three Keel, we are aggregating demand for ecosystem services across a landscape. In this case, demand for an environment that will contribute to support cows that produce high quality milk, clean water, and that reduce flood risk based on the economic interests of Nestle, a water company, and an insurance company, among others. What for me makes this different from other initiatives that I've been involved with is that this isn't just about doing good and being socially responsible. It's about bottom lines. There are a range of climate change impacts on Nestle's risk register, and so for them, investing in natural capital is about securing supply chains, keeping their factories running, and remaining viable as a business. As interest in these approaches grow, we need to position peatlands as the investment of choice for companies that want to get serious about climate change. By paying for nature conservation in this way, we're not somehow privatising nature. We are appreciating the full value it brings to society and paying a fair price for those services. If we want people to change how they manage our peatlands, we must make conservation pay, and we must develop policy mechanisms that make this possible.
There was a time when the world seemed so close to falling apart. They say it very nearly did. But they changed, just in time. That's when my grandfather became one of the first carbon farmers.